Hi there, I'm Dr. Christian Mostert, and we are busy with writing your research proposal. So this is section 5, where we're going to deal with your research objectives. So let's look at the purpose of the research objectives. So the purpose of research objectives is to break down the overall purpose of your study, or the aim of your study, which was dealt with in the previous section. And now you're going to define measurable objectives or outcomes for it. So remember, the overall purpose of your study was a bigger picture view of what you want to achieve. So now we're going to break it down into the detailed objectives. So basically it will list the detailed or exact objectives that you want to achieve with your dissertation. At the end of your dissertation, you're actually going to have to refer back to this and say, we've achieved the individual objectives, and it will be this list that you had to achieve. So that will be the test at the end of the dissertation. So how do we start this? So the first paragraph will be a sentence that will link from the previous section. So you will take your previous section where your overall objective of your study is, and you're going to directly link it to what the detailed objectives are. So you're going to have a single sentence that will lead you into dividing this overall purpose of the study into specific or its specific individual parts, which will now become the objectives to achieve. So it's very short and sweet. There are no long stories to this. A single sentence that's going to tell you the research objectives of this study will be this and that and the other thing. Important to realize that your research objectives must have meaning. Okay, so typically there will be between about 2 to maybe 4 or 5 of these specific objectives. And I think what is really important to realize is that the better your research objectives are in terms of being specific, primary objectives to be achieved by the end of your dissertation, the easier it's going to be for you to use them in a productive manner. So you want to be very clear about what are these detailed objectives that you want to achieve. So if you look at the sequence and the language of that type of objectives, the sequence matters because it will provide order to your dissertation. It's going to help them to be your dissertation to be logic and to have an easy flow that will be easy to understand. And therefore you want, for instance, the first objective that you use to be the first one that you will achieve. And then it's going to lead you to achieving the second objective and the third objective as you progress through your dissertation. So make sure that you have the order of these objectives in such a way that it's going to be logic for you to research and report on that. Also make sure about the type of language that you're going to use. The research objectives have to be more specific. So you can't beat around the bush. You really need to make sure that you say exactly what each objective will achieve. Let's look at the length and some notes. So for MBAs, it's going to be a few paragraphs only. You have your introduction sentence and you're going to list your 4 or 5 objectives. It's really as simple as that. Master's degree, probably half a page to maybe 1 page, a little more context inside. And then PhD, also about 1 page. This is not a long story. It simply takes the previous overall objective and break it down in its components. Just note that the academic language can now become more formal, even more technical. So in order to be able to specify your objectives correctly, you have to use the correct language, whatever that requires. But try to keep it still simple English. You will really see that the entire research proposal must not be overtly technical, because you want to convince academics on the academic panel about the merits of your research proposal. Another tip that I want to give to you is that it's better to have objectives refer to applications or outcomes of some type. This will help you to make the objectives specific and measurable. If you think about it, what can you do with that outcome? Or what will you do with it? What will it achieve? So make sure that there's a specific application or specific outcome for each of these objectives, and you really need to avoid waffling or be vague or anything like that. You have to be very specific with this. And also, just lastly, no references. This is not a literature study section, so there are absolutely no references in this section.